Peace and positivity reflections, good energy to all. So in this video, I just want to talk a little bit about symbolism and self-responsibility. So um, symbolically, you know, when I perceive the world, I gather that we have trouble with our lower self, and that plays out in many different forms. Um, this seems to be the underlying problem that is prevalent in just about all, worldwide. It's a worldwide epidemic, is our lower self. We have issues with paying attention to our lower self, getting addicted to lower self activities, and these turn into bad habits, and these bad habits then turn into sicknesses, which turn into cancers, which kill people, and along the way create a lot of negativity and suffering, um, just in the world and in that person's life, in that person's life journey. So, and the root of this all goes back to, like I said, just lower self, carnal base desires in one form or another. Um, so, this is our problem. I mean, this is fundamentally the one problem that right now is plaguing humanity. And I think it's really important for us to kind of come together and acknowledge that that is our problem as a human being, giant family, um, before we can begin to heal. Because until you go to the root, until you go to the epicenter, until you break things down as deep and as far as you can go, then you're always going to leave room for you're not going to get the whole thing. It's like with an infection. Like, they tell you to take, I'm just using this as an example, but when you get antibiotics, they tell you to take all the antibiotics, every single pill. Even when you begin to feel better, they still tell you to take all of the pills, because the infection can lie, I think it can lie dormant inside your body, or at least it can lie in a state that it's not really affecting you, and it's not making you feel sick, but it's still there. It's just kind of subdued due to the antibiotics. But if you stop taking it at a certain point, and it hasn't been recessed enough or hasn't been eliminated for long enough, it has an ability to come back. And a lot of people, they have that issue, that their infections or their problems come back because they don't follow through and take the steps that the doctor prescribed and fully eradicate the problem, completely. And that's what the drugs do, is they completely eliminate everything out of you. And essentially, that's what we need to do as a human collective, as a human family, as a human species. Is we need to eliminate or learn from our lower self ways. We need to stop feeding them. We need to create systems that can help heal people and redirect this lower self desires and these lower self energies into a higher vibrational ones. I mean, and not in a forceful way. I mean, I don't want to, like, if people want to continue being lower self, whatever cancer cells, then that's their choice. But I really feel in my heart that there's a lot of human beings that, if they were really, if this type of information was really presented in type of a large manner, with the right type of system in play, like carbonation, to where people could come and they could leave their jobs and they could leave all these ill vices and attachments that are degenerating their being, and just perpetuating this cancer system, then I really feel like a lot of people would jump on board. People want to get better. People don't want to be sick anymore. It's just their concept of health and their concept of sickness and disease and cancer has been distorted by since the day they were born. Everything they've been told is lies, and then they watch all these movies which just reinforce these lies, and then they go to these jobs and they go to these schools which just help to perpetuate and reinforce these lies, and they just continue to pay more and more and more attention into these lies. I mean, I say, I mean, these beliefs that aren't leading them to a good place, that aren't actually healing them, that aren't actually bringing them any type of real successful productivity, or even positivity for that matter. And at the same time, a lot of these activities and jobs and schools and functions and all of these things are actually depleting resources from other places. So they're creating disharmonies in other environments, and then a lot of times the actual activities that we're performing aren't even good for our own aura, aren't even good for our own spirit. They're actually going, a lot of times it revolves around handling toxic chemicals or just putting yourself in positions that are painful, that are stressful for the human body, or forces you to do tasks that you find to be uncomfortable and unpleasant, which is also stressful, which creates, and stress is one of the leading causes of cancer. It creates all sorts of bad stuff inside of the body, chemicals and negative energies, and it gives parasites, energy to live and to thrive and to feed and to consume life and positivity and goodness inside the soul. So, I'm getting a little off tangent, but my main point was of this video was just, that from my perspective, if you look at all the governments, the medical system, the school system, the water that we're getting, that we pay for, that it gets pumped through these pipes and comes out of our sink, and then we bathe with it or even drink if you do. All these things are food. I mean, they've all been poisoned and corrupted for profit, for monetary gain. And it's not even, I mean, that's just part of it. It's mainly to keep I think the main reason is really to keep us at a lower vibrational being. I mean, they don't need the money. They already have plenty of money. Maybe it was about the money for a little bit, but it's so diabolical. It's so geared to keeping us dumbed down and sick. It seems set up that way, and it would be set up that way. If that was really, I mean, if you think about what the devil's, that's his card. It's his job is to make this as difficult as it can be on us, so that we can learn as much as we can learn from being in hell, from being in the cooker, from crystallizing ourselves, from learning from our lower self's ways, from turning our pains into our strengths and sharing that message. The devil's got to be there. He's got to be pretending to be our friend and stabbing us in the back the whole time so that we can learn to trust ourselves and to stop trusting outside entities that really don't have our good, interest at heart, and to really be objective with the type of things that we're choosing to do with ourselves, you know, and then to also know that, the dangers of capitalism, the dangers of expansion, the dangers of wanting more, the dangers of biting into that forbidden fruit to really come up with a nation that is totally aware of all of the many obstacles that comes with the human experience. This is why a nation that is literally devout to the 42 laws of Ma'at is is really the only way to go, because that's the only set of laws that I've come across that I feel that are fair and just for all human beings to live in harmony with one another and the earth. And to just start from that, completely eliminating attention paid to the lower self, creating a society that can heal itself and spread positivity and open its arms to any who's willing to learn and to follow the rules, or the ways. This is what's going to prove to the universe, prove to ourselves that we are capable of governing ourselves, that we are not in need of a government. You see, by us continuing not to take responsibility in our own hands, we're literally telling the universe, in some senses, that we need a government, that we need people to come and police us, that we need people to come and give us drugs, we need people to come and keep us dumbed down and keep entertaining us and keep programming us, because we're not capable of doing it on our own. You see? So everything is really about intent. It's about intent and about applying the knowledge and the information that you're given, and about knowing that if something is wrong, you don't continue to do it. This is another issue that we human beings are struggling with, as we continue on, knowing things aren't right, myself included. We continue on when we know things aren't right. Even though we know it doesn't feel good inside of us, there's still some part of us, our lower self, that thrives off of that. And because we live in a lower self-dominated world and society and cities, it's easy for us to turn the other cheek in the wrong way and to continue doing wrong, when so many others are doing wrong as well, because then it seems right. Then it becomes the norm. But when the norm is wrong, then you're the crazy one when you try to do right, which is exactly what's kind of happening now. Is all the people talking about the truth, all the people the so-called conspiracy theorists, people like Nature Boy and all these people, 13th Son. I mean, there's many of them. They're labeled as crazy in a lot of ways because we live in a crazy society. So it would, just like we think, so-called normal people are crazy because to them their way of life is crazy, but it's just the opposite to other people. So, but that's just the way it is. When I say we, I'm just talking about people who are in the conscious movement and trying to spread, good information and bring humanity together and in a different alternative way than the current way that we have right now, because it's clearly not working. But people who are like that, who are against the grain, against the current trends of the day, are always going to be you know seen as crazy and different and outcasts in a sense. So that's just part of the pattern. It's just the way it's got to go down. And then you kind of have to be that that extrovert or that extravagant one, so you can be able to see, to be able to perceive things differently. If you were doing things like everybody else was doing them, and you would see things like everybody else was seeing them, and you wouldn't have the vision, you wouldn't have the foresight to be able to imagine anything different, to be able to innovate any type of a new change that's going to be alternative to the current energies that exist today. So it takes being different, it takes being odd, it takes being a weirdo, it takes being crazy, it takes being an outcast to bring about any type of real, significant alternative, you know, for me, righteous change. And that's a concept that, I've had to really learn over the years myself because, I've always wanted to fit in, and it's just the more I tried to do it, it's just the worse it worked out. And the more of an outcast I turned out being. So, just an interesting lesson right there for myself too, as well as anybody else who picks up on it. So, all right. With that being said, yeah, just like I said, just looking at like everything that's going on, all the backwardsness, all the lies, all the corruption. It's all just, instead of trying to fight it and complain about it, why not just symbolically see it as a symbol to it's time for us to take responsibility in our own hands and stop relying on others. And that goes down to the individual level too. With your own personal life and all the obstacles and all of the things that have happened to you in your own personal life. It's time for you to take responsibility. That's the only way that you're going to really, find your greater or your higher self and really find a state of enlightenment or consistent happiness, is when you do take responsibility and you stop neglecting and you stop ignoring and you realize you are creating everything in this reality, all the good and the bad, and you're okay with it. And once you realize that you're the creator and the cause of it all, who's there to blame but you? So it's really quite foolish to run around and silly running around blaming other people when at the end of the day it's just completely accurate. I mean, it's completely inaccurate, when everything that happened to you was meant to happen to you, because of the way you are. So that all boils down to attraction and magnetics, and the type of lessons and energies that one needs to go through to just to be that much more of a honed in focal point or piece of God, for that matter. So anyway, I think that's pretty good for today's video. And so with that being said, I love myself, and good energy to all. All right, goodbye.